Hey guys, my name is David. I'm an agent here out of Greene County here in Springfield. This is another illustration I wanted to show you. This is one that I use all the time when I get into the conversation about auto insurance. This is a perfect illustration. I break out again on a blank white piece of printer paper and I'll explain to them how their auto insurance works, what the liability limits mean, and how their coverages break down. So one of the ways, as I'm going through this quote and I'm explaining to the insured, I always ask them, do you know what any of these limits or coverages mean? Regardless if they say, yep, I know, or I have no idea, I'm pulling this out anyways, and I'm going to show it to make sure we have the understanding down. So first thing I'll do, pull it out, and this is called drive between the lines. So I'm going to draw a road and two cars. And I always make some comment, oh, I'm not an artist, that's why I'm in insurance. Kind of get them laughing. So got my two cars. Next thing I'm going to do is draw the state minimum liability limits, 25, 50, 10. And then right underneath it, I'll write out whatever we're insuring for them. So for drawing sakes, we'll say we're doing 50, 100, 50. And I do this so they can see the difference between what the state minimum requirements and what we're actually insuring for them so they know it's better. And then I'll explain it. The way these numbers work, what they do. If you're driving down that road and you cross that line and you hit someone, Farm Bureau is going to pay a maximum of $50,000 for that one person's bodily injury limits. If it ever exceeds that amount, you will be held legally liable for the rest. The second number, the $100,000, that's going to cover per group of people in the car. So no individual can exceed $50,000, no group can exceed $100,000. And if it ever does, then you'll be held legally liable for the rest. The last number there, the other $50,000, that's going to be property damage. So if you hit a building, a tree, and obviously the car itself, Farm Bureau will pay a maximum of $50,000. Anything to exceed that, you'd be held legally liable for the rest. So now that we have an understanding of it, I'm going to explain and make sure they understand that these numbers are always greater than their assets and their income coming in. So they won't be held liable. Farm Bureau will be. And I always make a point of this $50,000 because that one's the easiest to understand, to get our heads around when I'm talking to our insureds, that you can barely buy a brand new car for $50,000 these days. The Chevy Tahoes, the new Fords, and Teslas are getting a lot more popular and they're exceeding 50 grand. So it's probably best that we start increasing these liability limits. So if you totaled out a new car, we're covering the damage, not you. Second one I will start going through is the uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. And I'll explain that. I'll draw it out at the 50, 100, usually what we're going to be insuring them for to match their liability. And I'll explain, these ones are for the roles reversed. And they hit you. You have $50,000 for yourself and $100,000 for anyone in your car. So the uninsured, if someone has no insurance and they hit you, underinsured, they hit you and don't have enough liability limits. They're running around carrying around the state minimum. Make sure they have the understanding of that. Next one, I'll probably go through the comp and the collision. And usually $500 deductible is the average, but write down whatever deductible you're quoting. If you're not doing full coverage, you're not adding those coverages, then fill it out, put 500 so you can at least explain it to them because they may be interested in purchasing it after you explain it. So I'll put down 500 for drawing's sake. And I explain comprehensive, anything not at fault. You hit a deer, tree lands on your car, someone steals it. Usually be a non-at-fault claim. We subtract $500 off what we pay out. You don't owe us $500, we deduct that from what we're going to pay out. A lot of people think they owe us $500 to file a claim. That's not the case. Collision, I'll explain, that is an at-fault claim. You hit that person, you want your car fixed. You ran off and hit the ditch. You hit a tree. You hit another car, hit the curb. You have damage to your car. It's your fault. Same deal. We deduct $500 from what we pay out. Usually after that, I'll start going through some medical payment coverage. You know, if you did $5,000 in coverage there, and I would explain that medical payments for you and anyone in your car, regardless of who's at fault of the accident, there's coverage there for you. If you never know what to do on that medical, how much is good enough, one rule of thumb I always add, what's your deductible for your health insurance? If you have a $5,000 deductible on your health insurance, $5,000 is probably your minimum you should at least carry because now we know at least this will cover your medical deductible for your health. Another one's at least $2,000 is a minimum you probably should write because most ambulance rides at least cost $2,000. So we can at least cover the ambulance right there. So $2,000 is probably the minimum, and you can use a hospital deductible for the rest. So next one, I always put H. H for help, emergency roadside service. You can also do ERS. And I'll explain how our roadside service works. And pretty much from here on, you can keep going and listing all the optional coverages we have and explaining how they work. But this is the main portion that we're really going to cover so they understand how it works and what it does. The next one is this is a great segue to pivot to life insurance. You just got into this accident, you died. What's next? And it's a perfect way to pivot to the next conversation, pivot higher liability limits, pivot that life insurance, pivot to more coverageable options.